The first round cracked past her ear. The second punched stone into her cheek. Ears ringing. Mud under boots. Acrid smoke in the air. She pulled a private by the collar and shoved him behind a shattered wall. "Stay low," she said. He nodded, pale and shaking. The convoy had never reached the saddle road. The ambush hit early, near the blown culvert where water ran brown with silt and diesel. Trucks burned in the ditch. Radios squawked and died. The ridge spat muzzle flashes like hot hail. Another burst chewed the sandbags near her face. She kept moving, breath steady, hand steady. Everyone knew her as the quiet one in supply. She counted magazines and marked crates. She logged calibers and numbers like other people counted prayers. Now she crawled through glass and dust with those same hands, dragging ammo cans toward the rifle pits where the line thinned with each shout. "Corpsman," someone screamed. Then silence. Then another crack. She reached the first fighting hole. A kid fired blind and burned his hand. She grabbed his wrist, peeled his fingers from the barrel, and shoved him a rag to wrap. Burst fire. 3 and stop. She slid him 2 fresh magazines. Breathe. She popped up long enough to snap 3 controlled shots at the ridge. Not at the shapes. At the muzzle flashes behind the thorn bushes. The bursts went quiet. She ducked. The kid stared at her. "Go," she said. He went. Across the road, the column commander tried to stand. Someone yanked him down. A mortar round fell short and filled the air with dirt. The blast muffled her hearing to a dull drum. She tasted metal. Her thumb found the base of her throat. Neck strap. Dog tag. Cold. She pushed on. Another ammo hole. Another pair of hands trembling for cartridges. She checked the feed tray. She wiped grit. She swapped the belt. "Look at me," she said to the gunner. His eyes finally met hers. "Count to 5. Fire for 3. Move the barrel one hand right." He nodded and did what she said. The gun hushed the ridge for a heartbeat. A figure slid beside her. Mud on his boots. Black ring of soot at the edge of his jawline. Colonel Mateo. He had taken the forward route when he should have stayed back. That was his flaw. He loved the front because the front was honest. He knelt, breathing hard. "We are cut," he said. "Left flank is gone. Right is falling." He peered over the wall and winced as a round chipped stone near his eye. "You. Supply girl. What is your name?" "Evelyn," she said. "Stay with me, Evelyn." She swallowed. Her mouth was dry. "Yes, Colonel." They crawled toward the gutted hilux near the culvert. A civilian lay under it, clutching his shoulder. A farmer, old and stubborn, who had refused to leave his goats when the shells started falling at dawn. He looked up at them with unfocused eyes. "My boy," he whispered. "They took him. Up the ridge." He reached for the colonel's sleeve. "They drag boys. For cover." His hand fell. Evelyn felt something tighten behind her ribs. Rage clean and sharp. She had seen this tactic. Human shields. Panic to break a defense. She forced the anger into a small box and closed the lid. A radio sputtered near the truck. Mateo snatched it. "Hammer, this is 6. Report." Static. Then a voice, clipped by fear. "6, Hammer. Enemy leader on the ridge. Calls himself Henry. Using a drone for spotting. We are blind." Henry. The voice from the leaflets. The voice from the broadcasts that promised mercy with one hand and burned markets with the other. He was ruthless and patient. He stacked bodies like he stacked arguments. "We cut your road. Lay down arms. Walk away. Take your dead with you." That was his line, always calm. Always the same. Mateo's face hardened. He lowered the radio and looked at Evelyn. His eyes scanned her hands the way a man reads a tool bench. He saw how she gripped the ammo cans. He saw how she moved between cover. He saw the way she counted breaths before she popped up. "Where did you learn to move like that?" he asked. She blinked. The sky flashed white with another mortar. The ground kicked her forward. She hit the dirt and rattled. "Training films," she lied. "I watch a lot." He did not believe her. They reached the half-wrecked command truck. The back was full of crates. Some burst open. Some still sealed. She hauled a lid and found bandoliers, scope caps, lens cloths. Her thumb brushed a hard plastic case with a faded sticker. An old unit seal. A sparrow in flight over a crescent. She felt her breath catch, then forced her face to stay blank. Mateo pulled a manifest, then frowned. He dug beneath the blankets. He found a pouch with a reinforcement patch. The stitching was different. Not the depot kind. Careful. Tight. He opened it and pulled out a folded oilcloth. Inside lay a bolt carrier group that had no business in a command truck, polished by hands that cleaned it every night. Beside it, a hard notebook covered in sweat polish. He opened to the first page. There were wind calls in a neat hand. Ranges. Notes on mirage. Terrain sketches. Not supply notes. Shooter notes. The name on the inside cover stopped him. Not a name. A code name. He read it once. His eyes lifted to her face. He read it again. His voice came quiet. Gray Finch. Evelyn stared at the torn canvas. The sound of gunfire narrowed to a tunnel. She felt the weight of the years she had tried to bury. A cold creek. A mountain hide. A shot that had been perfect and terrible at once. She had folded that part of her into a small life in the supply tent. Counting. Stacking. Safe math. She said nothing. Mateo closed the book. You kept it from me, he said, but his tone held no anger. Only urgency. You will unlock it now. He reached under the bench and pulled a long, wrapped parcel. He tore the straps. A suppressed rifle lay within, scuffed and clean at once. Old and loyal. The stock bore a tiny sparrow cut into the wood. He pushed it to her. We need 180 seconds of quiet. Can you give it to me? She looked at the ridge. Henry's men were pushing down in a staggered line. The drone whispered somewhere above like a mosquito. Twice short. Once long. That meant a correction. She adjusted her breath. Her hands found the rifle, and the rifle fit. She seated the bolt. She checked the glass. Clarity returned to the world. A red that slid across the side of the truck and rested on Colonel Mateo's chest. He did not see it. He was still watching her, waiting for yes or no. The dot climbed toward his throat. Down, she said. He frowned. What? The dot bloomed to a tight square as the laser steadied from the ridge. She threw herself at him. The shot cracked. The dirt where Mateo had been kneeling burst into dust. Evelyn's shoulders slammed into them, and they both rolled behind the truck. The laser vanished, but the burn of its warning stayed in her chest. Mateo stared at her, shaken but alive. His lips pressed tight. That wasn't spray fire. That was a shooter. Evelyn steadied her breath. The scope of her rifle glinted faintly, catching a fragment of daylight as she adjusted it. Henry doesn't waste bullets, she said. He has a spotter. The drone is his eyes. His shooter is his knife. Mateo pressed the radio to his mouth, voice low. Hammer 6. Sniper confirmed. Drone in play. Cover your heads. Stay low. Hold fire until coordinates. He released the button, then looked at her. You can track him? She adjusted the rifle, glass pressed to her eye. Dust clouds, broken shrubs, jagged stone. Nothing moved except the drone's faint hum, high above. She scanned shadows. She counted seconds between shots. Her heartbeat slowed to match the rhythm she had buried years ago. Wind is steady, she whispered. From the east. Mirage is light. Mateo frowned. You speak like a shooter, she finished for him. Her lips tightened. Because I was. He studied her face, as if memorizing it for a report he'd never write. Gray Finch. I heard stories. A phantom who pulled commanders from ridges without leaving a trace. They said she vanished. Gray Finch died, Evelyn said flatly. She slid the bolt with a sharp click. But right now you need her. The colonel gave the smallest nod. Then live for 3 minutes more. The next shot rang out. This one chewed the corner of the sandbag wall, inches from a young gunner's head. The kid froze, eyes wide. Evelyn exhaled and pulled the trigger. The rifle whispered, suppressed but deadly. A stone near the ridge, face shattered. Silence. No scream. No fall. She had missed, by choice. She wanted the shooter to move. Seconds stretched. Then another flash. 3 meters left to the last. She fired again, cleaner, sharper. This time a body jerked back into the rocks. The drone hummed in panic, circling faster, losing its calm. The line cheered. Brief, desperate voices rose with hope. But Henry was not broken. His voice came through a loudspeaker, echoing across the ridge. Calm. Controlled. So the ghost lives. The sparrow returns. Do you think 3 bullets will save them? You only delay the end. Evelyn's jaw clenched. She had not heard that voice since Kandahar, when Henry ordered a family executed to flush her into taking a shot. She had taken it then and killed his lieutenant. Henry had lived, and the war had stretched into years. Mateo's hand touched her shoulder. We hold until dusk. Reinforcements climb the far road. If you can blind the drone, we live. She adjusted, scanning sky instead of stone. The drone shimmered, a small silver cross against the sun. Her breath caught. A shot at that distance was madness. But madness was survival now. She adjusted 3 clicks up, 1 left. Her finger curled. The rifle whispered. The drone burst into fragments of light and metal. A cheer ripped across the line. Soldiers lifted their heads, finally breathing. But silence followed. Too much silence. Evelyn froze, eyes still in the scope. On the ridge, men in dark robes pulled something forward. Not weapons. Not crates. Prisoners. Young boys, wrist-bound, stumbling. The farmer's son among them, pushed with a rifle butt. Mateo cursed. His fists clenched. He knows we cannot fire now. Evelyn's stomach turned. Duty burned against morality. Brotherhood pressed against the weight of innocence. She steadied her scope, heartbreaking. Henry had changed the game. Through the glass, she saw him at last. Henry himself. Calm, composed. He looked straight down the ridge, eyes as if locked on her, though he could not see. His lips moved around a phrase that she had heard once before. Choose, Gray Finch. Her finger froze on the trigger. The ridge was quiet, too quiet for a battlefield. Smoke curled upward from the wrecked trucks, drifting into the thinning light. The boys stood in a ragged line, wrists bound with cloth strips, rifles at their backs. Their faces were streaked with dirt and tears. Evelyn's chest rose and fell, her scope fixed on Henry. He had aged since Kandahar, but his eyes hadn't changed. Cold, patient, calculating. He lifted one hand, a simple gesture. One of his fighters shoved the farmer's son to his knees at the edge of the slope. Mateo's breath hissed through his teeth. He's daring you. Evelyn swallowed hard. Every instinct screamed to fire. One shot and Henry would fall. Maybe the line of fighters would collapse with him. But the barrel pressed against the boy's neck told her the truth. If she shot, the boy would die before Henry even hit the ground. She lowered the rifle. The colonel turned sharply toward her. Why? Her eyes burned. Because this isn't about killing Henry. It's about breaking us. He knows if we fire, we live with the blood of children. The colonel's jaw tightened. He knew she was right. That was the cost of fighting a man like Henry. He didn't just kill soldiers. He killed choices. A burst of gunfire rattled down the line. One of Mateo's men, panicked, had fired toward the ridge. Henry's hand flicked again. The boy at the edge screamed as the rifle, but slammed into his ribs. He crumpled but was dragged back up, forced to stand. Henry's voice rolled out over the loudspeaker, smooth as silk, sharp as glass. You see? They break discipline. They cannot protect you. Lay down arms and walk away. Spare your children. Spare your souls. The men on the line shifted, restless, some lowering their rifles. Hope had flared when the drone fell, but now despair crawled back in. Mateo saw it. His voice cracked across the line. Hold your posts. Every second we stand is a second reinforcements climb closer. Do not shame your brothers. The words steadied some, but not all. Evelyn saw the doubt in their eyes. She had seen it before on another ridge, another war. She felt the same doubt clawing at her own chest. She pulled the bolt, chambered another round, and spoke softly, just for Mateo. If I can draw him out, get him to move into open ground, I can take him. Mateo shook his head. And the boys? Her throat tightened. I'll find a way. He looked at her, long and hard. Gray Finch, I am asking as a commander and as a man. Do not let him break my men. She gave the smallest nod. Her eyes returned to the scope. She did not aim at Henry, not yet. Instead, she shifted to the fighter, holding the farmer's son. She studied the angle. If her shot was perfect, the fighter would fall, without pulling the trigger. Perfect was all she had. She slowed her breath. In, out, steady. The world narrowed to glass and crosshairs. She squeezed. The rifle whispered. The fighter dropped. The boy stumbled forward, stunned but alive. For a heartbeat, the ridge froze. Then chaos erupted. Shouts. Rifles swinging. Henry himself turned sharply, his composure cracking. Mateo grabbed the radio. Now. Push fire. Suppress the ridge. The line came alive. Machine guns roared. Rifles spat flame. The ridge answered with chaos, but the balance had shifted. Evelyn worked the bolt again, eyes scanning, hands calm. She took another fighter down. Then another. But Henry recovered fast. His hand rose high, and his men dragged the other boys forward, closer to the slope. His voice cut through the din. Everyone you kill, I throw a child into the ravine. Choose Sparrow. Choose. Evelyn's heart slammed against her ribs. The smoke, the screams, the pounding of rifles, it all blurred. She had bought them seconds, maybe a minute. But Henry had her pinned in the oldest trap of war, morality against survival. Her finger hovered over the trigger. Mateo's voice cut through, raw and unshaken. Finch, if you can't kill him, break him. Break his men. She shifted her aim, searching for weakness. Not Henry. Not the children. Something else. Then she saw it. The comms pack slung on a fighter's back, antenna jutting above his shoulder. She exhaled. Fired. The pack exploded in sparks. The ridge's radio net fell into static. Henry's fighters wavered, shouting in confusion, half blind, without his orders. For the first time, Henry looked uncertain. But just as hope surged again, a new sound rolled over the valley. Deep, heavy, the rumble of engines. Evelyn froze. Mateo's face went pale. No, that's not our reinforcements. On the ridge behind Henry, armored vehicles appeared, treads grinding rock, black flags whipping in the wind. The sound of treads crushed the valley's last shred of calm. Black flags fluttered from the armored vehicles as they rolled into position above Henry's line. Dust billowed with each turn of their tracks. Heavy barrels tilted downward, menacing the shattered convoy. Mateo's face darkened. Armor. They've brought armor. Evelyn's pulse quickened. They had rifles, machine guns, grenades, but nothing that could crack steel beasts crawling down the ridge. The soldiers around them saw it too, their brief hope fading. Shoulders slumped. Fingers slipped from triggers. Henry's voice boomed again, carried now by the Engine's growl. Do you see? Every moment you resist, more power comes against you. Lay down your arms. Walk away. I keep the children. You live. Resist, and all of you burn. The words slithered into the men's ears like poison. Some shouted in anger. Others stared at the dirt, torn between pride and survival. The line was cracking, and Henry knew it. Mateo slammed his fist into the truck's metal. If they break, it's over. He turned to Evelyn. Tell me you have something. Her scope traced a ridge, mind racing. Armor meant fuel. Armor meant heat. Her eye caught a glint near the rear of the lead vehicle. Thin pipes, faint shimmer, the exhaust. Vulnerable, but too far for rifles. Unless. She grabbed a pouch, pulled free an old strike flare, and held it up. If I can get this onto their fuel line, it'll cook them. Mateo's brows furrowed. That's a suicide run. Her jaw tightened. Not if I stay low. Before he could argue, a round smacked the truck beside them, showering them with shards. Time was gone. She slipped the flare into her vest, slung the rifle, and crawled out from cover. Bullets cracked. Dirt spat. She moved in bursts, roll, crawl, pause. Each heartbeat a choice. A fighter spotted her and raised his rifle, but Mateo's shout came with a burst of fire, dropping the man. She glanced back once. The colonel gave her a single nod, solid and unshaken. She pressed forward, closer to the culvert. The roar of engines grew, the smell of burning oil thick. Her fingers tightened around the flare. A memory flashed. Her last mission as Gray Finch. Another ridge, another machine. She had placed a charge then, watched the fire climb into the sky, and felt nothing but emptiness. That emptiness had driven her into hiding. But now boys stood in chains, and soldiers needed hope. She would not hide again. She reached the culvert, crouched behind twisted rebar. The lead vehicle ground closer, treads rattling rock loose down the slope. She pulled the flare, struck it. Sparks leapt aflame. White smoke curled upward. Her arm drew back. Her aim steadied. A shot cracked. Pain ripped through her side. She gasped, the flare wobbling in her grip. She dropped behind the concrete, teeth clenched. Blood spread hot under her vest. On the ridge, Henry's men roared in triumph. He had seen her. He had marked her. His voice slashed across the battlefield. The sparrow bleeds. Your ghost is nothing but dust. The soldiers in the line faltered, fear clawing them down. Mateo bellowed, voice raw with fury. Hold. Do not let her fall for nothing. Evelyn pressed her palm against the wound, breath ragged. Her other hand clutched the still-burning flare. Pain blurred her vision, but she forced it back. She could not miss. Not now. She rose just enough, muscles screaming, and hurled the flare with everything left in her. It arced through smoke and chaos, a streak of white fire. It struck the rear of the lead vehicle, lodged near the exhaust. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then the world erupted. Flames leapt. Fuel roared. The armored beast turned into a furnace, spilling fire across the slope. Fighters screamed. The line of black flags rippled in panic as the vehicle behind tried to turn, grinding into the rocks. Cheers thundered from Mateo's men. Hope, fierce and wild, surged again. But Evelyn's knees buckled. She fell against the culvert, vision tunneling, ears full of ringing. Her rifle slipped from her grasp. Mateo saw her collapse. He tore from cover, sprinting across the fire-swept road. Bullets chased him, but he didn't stop. He dropped beside her, hands pressing against the wound. Stay with me. You gave them back their fight. You don't get to leave now. Her lips moved, faint. The boys get the boys. Above them, Henry's voice faltered for the first time. Rage, not calm, carried his words. Finish them. Burn every last one. From the ridge, fighters surged, pushing down in fury, even as flames consumed their armor. Mateo's eyes met hers. If we don't stop them here, no one leaves alive. Evelyn forced her eyes open, whispering through blood and grit. Then give me my rifle. Mateo pressed her rifle into her hands, the wood still warm, the sparrow carved into its stock glowing faint in the firelight. Her bloodied fingers wrapped around it, steady despite the pain ripping through her side. The ridge thundered with enemy boots. Henry's men poured down, driven by rage, shadows against flames. Behind them, the children stumbled, dragged forward like shields. Henry himself moved with them, cloak trailing, voice cutting through the chaos. End them. No prisoners. Mateo braced her upright against the culvert. His hand never left her wound. You can't fire in this state. Her jaw locked. Watch me. She pulled the scope to her eye. Vision blurred at the edges, but the center was sharp. Crosshairs steady. The first fighter's head snapped back. The second collapsed before his rifle cleared. Every pull of the trigger sent a stab of fire through her ribs, but she kept going. Mateo shouted orders. Men rallied. Gunfire thundered back. The line held. Henry saw it. His calm mask cracked again, rage seething. He shoved one of the boys forward, his hand gripping the child's neck. He lifted his rifle, pressing the barrel against the boy's temple, and roared into the valley. One more step, and I break him. Lay down now, or this child dies. The battlefield froze. Every rifle wavered. Every shout died. Mateo's men looked to him, to her. The moment stretched, brutal and suffocating. Evelyn's breath slowed. She had dreamed of this moment, the day Henry would stand in her glass. She had rehearsed it in silence 1,000 times, swore she would never take the shot if a child was in the way. But there he was, rage and ruin in human form, and the boy shaking in his grip. Mateo whispered, "Raw, Finch." Her finger tightened. Her lips formed words so faint Mateo barely heard them. "Trust me," the rifle whispered. Henry staggered, eyes wide, a crimson bloom on his shoulder. Not fatal. Deliberate. His grip loosened. The boy dropped and scrambled away. In the same breath, she shifted, bolt slid, another round chambered. The second shot came fast, tearing through Henry's thigh. He collapsed, dragged back by his men, fury spilling from his mouth as he bled. The boys broke free, running down toward the convoy, stumbling into soldiers' arms. The line erupted with fire again, surging forward, driving Henry's men into chaos. Without their leader upright, without orders through comms, they faltered. Some fled. Some fell. The ridge broke. Mateo stood tall, rifle in hand, voice like thunder. "Push. Drive them off the mountain." His men roared and advanced. The black flags retreated into smoke. Beside the culvert, Evelyn sagged, the rifle slipping from her grasp. Her breaths came shallow, lips pale. Mateo dropped back to her, grabbing her hand. "Stay with me, Gray Finch. You are not done." Her eyes fluttered, then fixed on him, sharp even through pain. "I told you." Gray Finch died. Her voice cracked into a faint smile. Evelyn stayed. Medics rushed in, pulling her onto a stretcher. Soldiers surrounded her, salutes sharp, eyes burning with respect. The boys clung to her stretcher, tears streaking their faces. Mateo walked beside her, eyes scanning the smoke-filled ridge. "We'll move you to base. You'll live." Her hand gripped his sleeve, weak but insistent. "Henry lives too. He'll rise again." Mateo nodded grimly. "Then we'll be ready." The stretcher lifted, moving toward the waiting vehicles. The flames on the ridge burned behind them, black flags disappearing into the night. For now, the valley was theirs. For now, the children were safe. But the war was not over. And in the silence of her heart, Evelyn knew one truth. Gray Finch might have died once, but tonight, the ghost had returned.